Hi, I'm Troy.
And I'm Vicki.
And we are Empty Nesters Wine. Hi, welcome back to Empty Nesters Winery Podcast, Episode 11, the winemaking process from beginning to end, pretty much. We're not growing anything, but hey, I appreciate you guys listening, and if you are listening, do me a favor and like our video or podcast here, the audio, and subscribe to our YouTube page. And we put out a new podcast every Monday. Like our Facebook page. That's how we get out most of our information. Like and subscribe. And then here's the thing. We're on episode 11 of our podcast. And, you know, I keep coming up with different ideas to talk about each week. But if you guys have something you'd like to hear us talk about, anything wine related or Lecompton related or whatever.
Or us related.
Personal. Yeah, depending on what it is. Drop a comment down below and just throw an idea out there, and we may have a podcast concerning that subject. So drop a comment below if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about. Vicki, what wine are we tasting at the end of the podcast today?
We are going to try a Chardonnay from a local winery.
Chardonnay from a local winery. Yeah, as soon as she said Chardonnay...
Apparently, there's a fly that likes our producer's wine. He just flew right in and took a nosedive. Okay, so, this is a Chardonnay from a local winery. Not ours because we don't make Chardonnay. So we did one time from a kit.
We did, yeah. Way back in the day when we first started. But now we do fruit wines, berry wines. So
much better.
Speaking of... the wines that we do make, fruits and berries. This podcast is concerning how we make our wine from the beginning to the end. So fruit first, obviously, you know, it all starts with the fruit. Any wine, you know, you could make wine with water, sugar, and yeast, really, because that's the main ingredients is sugar and yeast. But
well, I would think it would need some sort of juice to become wine.
Yeah. Well, you can make alcohol.
Well, yeah, you definitely make alcohol.
Water, sugar, and yeast. But, you know, to get a really good flavor in there, you got to have a really good fruit or berry or grape. And so, you know, not just anything is going to work as far as, you know, quality-wise. You got to make sure that, first of all, you know, you pick the variety of fruit you're going to be using. Are we making apple wine? Are we making strawberry wine? Are we making peach wine? You know, so then we got to wait until the proper season because the fruit has to be, you know, properly ripened. You know, if you use it too green, then it's going to lack flavor.
Right. And
if you wait too long and it's overly ripe, then you're going to have rotten fruit, and you can't do that. No. So there's a little window in there. And then it's got to be a quality fruit, you know, like... We've had peaches that we've cut open. They're ripe and they're ready to go, and you cut them open and there's no smell, not much of a flavor to them. And then like the peach that we used last time, man.
They smell
cut those
amazing.
open, the whole store smelled like peaches. And so that's the key right there.
I am super excited to try this peach.
And the cherries smell really good too. Smell like cherry pies in there.
Oh yeah, the whole time it was fermenting, it smelled like cherry pie.
Yeah, so you know, it starts with the fruit. You got to pick the right fruit at the right time, and make sure it's of a good quality. So after you've chosen the fruit, you got to get the fruit, which sometimes can be quite a chore. You know, a lot of the stuff that we use, we go to a pick farm. You know, there's several around our area, but you know, we go out and we pick strawberries at the strawberry patch. That's a difficult task because
you need a lot of people.
Yeah, the strawberries, you know, the plants are only like a foot off the ground, you know, so you're on your knees most of the time and you're crawling around looking at, you know, and you don't just start picking a whole bunch of strawberries. You know, some of them are still green. Some of them aren't quite right yet. So Blueberries, same way. We go pick our own blueberries, and they got to be the proper plumpness and ripeness and all that stuff. And the blueberry plants are a little taller. They're about 3 foot tall, but you still got to get on your hands and knees to pick the ones down towards the ground. Again, call friends, family. Hey, we'll give you some wine if you come out and help us pick stuff. Because, just 2 people picking all that.
Oh, there's no way. Not at all.
Yeah. We could do it back when we made 6-gallon batches, but now we're making big batches for the winery. Whew. Peaches, pears, cherries, all that stuff you can pick yourself. We can pick ourselves. Pears, what was it? Several years ago, Vicky has a cousin with was it 1 or 2 giant pear trees?
I think she had 3.
3. And, picking pears is kind of fun because you're out there on ladders and you got these little long pole picker things. And so we just kept picking pears, and we came home with a lot of pears.
A lot.
How many batches we ended up making? 10 6-gallon batches or something?
I think it was 8.
We made pear wine. We made pear cranberry wine. Pear raspberry.
Pomegranate.
Yeah, we made a lot of pear wines. So picking the pears wasn't terrible, but working them up sure was.
Oh, gosh.
Pears, you got to cut them, especially when you pick them yourself off of a tree. If you go to the store and you look at the pears, they're perfect, because that's how they were.
They're grade A, yeah.
Yeah, but not these. So, you got to cut them open, cut out the bad spots, make sure there's no bugs in them, cut out the seeds, and then process them for the wine. So, yeah, each batch... It just takes a lot of work to do, depending on what fruit or berry you choose. And then there's others like blackberries. Man, that was an easy one.
Yep.
Vicky made a phone call, said, hey, we want 250 pounds of blackberries. Actually, she said, we want 220 pounds of blackberries. They showed up at our door, said, hey, we brought 250 pounds. Great.
Yeah, they gave us a good deal on the rest.
Carried them in. That's my kind of picking.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was a local farm, and they pick them and deliver them, and that was great. And I hear that they might be growing blueberries and something else, maybe raspberries.
Well, that's a rumor that's going around.
Yeah, a rumor. So don't tell anyone you heard it here. We don't spread rumors. But it would be great if they did. So once you get the fruit, a very, very important part of the winemaking process is sanitization. You have to sanitize everything. We have a big stainless steel table that we work on. We sanitize the table. We sanitize bowls, knives, food processors, stirring paddles, obviously the fermenter,
anything that's going to touch the fruit or the wine, yeah.
Measuring spoons and cups, and sanitize everything. And then once everything's sanitized, you take that fruit and you have to work it up. If it's strawberries, you might be there for 12 hours working up strawberries.
Yeah.
If it's blueberries, hey, it's going to be easy.
Right.
So, yeah, it just depends. But, so you work up the fruit depending on, what it is, and then you put it in the fermenter. Along with the fruit goes sugar and wine tannins and acid blends and yeast nutrients. And, it's not a big chemical bath or anything. It's mostly natural stuff. Like the tannins, it comes from, I think it's oak.
No, it comes from grape leaves.
Grape leaves, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just stuff that helps the yeast to have the proper atmosphere to be able to do its job and to do it well. So, you have to measure all that out. You have to take readings to see what your sugar level is, so if you got to go up in sugar. if you got to go down in sugar, you're in trouble because you can add sugar, but you can't take sugar out once it's in there. So, and sugar level decides the amount of alcohol. So if you get too much sugar in there, well, you're just going to have a really strong wine.
Which is fine if you're making it for yourself, but
right.
There's a little bit more stricter guidelines on that for commercial winery. And they're stirring. And stirring. And stirring.
Yeah, we have a big stainless steel stirring paddle. And I know there's probably easier ways of doing it, a drill mounted something or another, but we have to be real careful about what we use. And everything that I've found that's drill mounted is not stainless steel, it's metal. And it's actually metal coated or whatever.
Yeah, it's got some sort of coating.
Yeah, and we can't do that because we don't want pieces coming off in our wine or rust or anything like that. So we just got a big giant stainless steel paddle. Looks like an oar for a canoe. And just
sometimes
manually.
I feel like I'm rowing when I stir wine.
Yeah. I let Vicky do all the rowing. I mean, stirring. Not really. No, but she does do plenty of it as well. We both get up there and stir quite a bit. So yeah, when you put the sugar in the fruit, you have to stir. When you put the tannin in the fruit, you got to stir. When you put the yeast nutrient in, you got to stir. And it's thick. And so it takes some work stirring that up.
Yeah. And it's deep. I mean, you're sticking that big, huge, long paddle almost all the way up to the
It's a 120-gallon fermenter, and you're standing on the top of a ladder and trying to stir it. Then you take more measurements. You're measuring the acid level. You're measuring the sugar level. You're measuring the temperature. Just making sure that everything is ready for the magic sauce, as I like to call it.
Magic sauce.
Yeah, up to this point, it's not wine. It's juice or must, as they call it in the industry. But then that one special ingredient that you add?
Yeast.
Once you add the yeast, it becomes wine, and the yeast actually starts consuming the sugars and excreting alcohol. And so that's how it works.
It definitely smells yeasty when you're making it too.
Right. And there's probably a million different yeasts on the market too. So, we have done a lot of research on yeasts for different fruits and berries and stuff. And we've probably got it narrowed down to about 6 or 8 yeasts that we like to use. Mm-hmm. And so depending on the fruit or berry, depends on what yeast we put in. But then once you put the yeast in, stir it in, and you're done for the day. Then the next day you come back and you stir it in the morning. Then you stir it in the evening. And you stir it in the morning the next day.
I'm seeing a pattern emerging here. Lots of stirring.
So every day for about a week, we go to the winery twice a day and stir the wine because the fruit will separate from the wine, and we want to get all that fruit stirred back in so it really provides a good flavor, color. So after about a week, the yeast has done its job, and we take some more readings, and if the sugar level is at a specific number, then we know it's done. It's ready to move to a barrel, which in the industry they call that rack it over to a new barrel. So about a week after we start the process, we move it over to a new barrel. We remove the fruit and the yeast. We strain it, and then we put it into a new barrel. At that point, the stirring stops. We don't want to disturb it too much. We want it to sit in that barrel and settle because there's still some fruit debris, yeast debris in the wine, and it settles down to the bottom. So after about a month, we take a clean barrel, and we sanitize it. We sanitize our pump and our hoses and everything, and we move the wine over to another barrel, and the sediment left at the bottom is the remains of the fruit and the yeast that we started with. And it sits there for another month, and then we move it over to another barrel. We do that about 5 times, 5 or 6, 8, 10 months time, just depending on the wine and how much time we have and how motivated we are to get it done. So after about 5 or 6 times of moving it back and forth to different barrels, then, we're tasting it throughout every time we move it to a barrel, we taste it.
Right.
And it's a tough job.
That's my favorite part.
That's Vicky's favorite part. So, yeah, we taste it, and we put it in a clean barrel. Then next month we taste it, put it in a clean barrel. So by the time we get it to the 5th time, that 66 gallons has become about 40 after Vicky's tastings. Okay, not really. We don't taste that much. We still have pretty much 66 gallons. So, but then after that, it's pretty clear and pretty well aged, and then it's time to sweeten it. And so we sweeten the wine with usually just sugar.
If we're sweetening it.
Yeah, if you're going to sweeten it. Because you can take a really sweet strawberries and add a bunch of sugar to them, but then when you add that yeast, by the time it's done fermenting, it's not going to be sweet anymore.
Nope, it's dry.
Yeah. So after we sweeten it, then we let it sit for a few days, and then we filter it through a machine with filters, and then after the filters, it is pristine wine, good shape. We let it sit for a few days just to stabilize and to
put the air out.
Yeah. And then we bottle it. Well, excuse me, then we taste it again. Make sure it's acceptable. So after we taste it and we decide, yeah, this is pretty good, it goes in the bottle. Put a cork in that bottle, put a label on the bottle, and put a topper on that bottle. And then, a few months down the road, we crack that bottle open at the end of a podcast and we taste it. Just like we're going to do today with what, Vicky?
Oh, this one's a Chardonnay.
The Chardonnay wine.
From a local winery. This one's not ours. And I'm pretty sure Chardonnay does not grow here in Kansas.
I don't know. I don't think it does. It's nice and golden, nice and clear. Smells really good.
It's got a nice crisp taste.
Yeah.
Not overly dry like a lot of Chardonnays are. I don't normally like Chardonnay at all.
So a fly buzzed into our producer's wine at the beginning of this podcast, and Vicky poured him what was left in the bottle, which is
very little
drops. So he can taste it too. As I sit here with this big glass full. This is good wine. It's nice and crisp, and it's not too sweet, not too dry, middle of the road. It's really good. I like it. Hey, so thanks for joining us today on the winemaking process. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join us next week. We're going to be talking about the research that we did going into opening Empty Nesters Winery. So see you next week.